Welcome back to another Matt and Maddie breakdown some quarterback play. And hey, we made it. We got through one of the best games I've ever watched. Matt, I got to ask you before we get into the play, like, did you enjoy watching that football game, or were you just not watching? Like, I don't think there's any other option besides those two.
Oh my gosh, the football game was one of the best football games I've ever seen, especially the play from the two quarterbacks. It's sometimes very difficult to live up to the hype of a game because so many people anticipated the fireworks and the explosive plays on offense, but the manner in which it played out, the big plays made at the end by both quarterbacks, and then for the Kansas City Chiefs to take it in overtime and go down, throw the touchdown pass to Travis Kelce in the corner of the end zone. I mean, incredible ending, and I know Arrowhead had to be absolutely electrifying.
Oh yeah, everything I've seen come out of there has been just absolutely insane. So I'm sure it was
Insane.
there, but we got to get into this. So this first play here, we're gonna go through. This first play is completion to Travis Kelce over the middle of the field. It's coming off a play action, so we'll let you walk us through this, what the Chiefs are trying to do, and what coverage we have the Bills in on this one.
Right. What I loved about this play is it's a hard play action pass, and they're in a run personnel group. They're in 13 personnel, three tight ends, one receiver. And so they set it up in that bunch, which really backs off the corner. It's a two high shell. And last week we talked about quarter, half. That's essentially what it becomes when they get into that condensed formation up top. The corner backs off and more plays like more quarters there to Tyreek Hill. They have help over the top. It plays more like a cover two shell. So here, the best part about Mahomes right here is he's evaluating Tyreek Hill. Does he went over the top to get, and you saw it last week again on that bench route where he got in between the corner and the safety. Well, the corner down here on Tyreek Hill gives a lot of depth. So you can see Mahomes evaluating that play, doesn't like it. And then as you see it up top, it was a switch release between Noah Gray, who was at the point, and Kelce underneath. So right off of Noah Gray, as he's running that seven stop route, which is a corner, and he puts his foot on the ground, he kind of comes underneath his wake, gets into that vacancy right there. The hole goes behind the Mike linebacker, and because of the depth of the weak safety and Tyreek Hill's speed, he's able to come right into that window, and Patrick Mahomes delivers a strike. It was a great play call, great play design, and it was a lot of confidence, obviously, when you saw Patrick come back and look at it and evaluate. He knew where he wanted to go with the ball.
Yeah, the Chiefs had a little bit of not good luck, but they did a good job early in this game of kind of taking advantage of the middle linebacker, Tremaine Edmunds, for the Bills. They were getting a lot of kind of crossing routes to work in behind them. So, I mean, this is just one of those right here. I wanted to ask, though, on this play, when Mahomes comes out of this play action, is he reading kind of top down? So from the shot play to Tyreek Hill, which is the deepest, and then working back down to Travis Kelce, or what's he looking for to determine his reads on this kind of play?
Right. It's a simple high-low when you start to the left-hand side. So you come off the play fake, you flip your hips, you're looking at Tyreek Hill, the X receiver, the single receiver, seeing if he wins right there. And then you got Jerick McKinnon, I believe that is, going to the flat. So you can create a high-low. The will linebacker, though, takes him almost like a man-to-man defense. So there's nobody open right there. And then you got to get back into your progression. So it's a true progression left to right. He's working the bench route to the flat route. Now you got Travis coming right into your vision right here on the deep over. And then you can work all the way back to that seven stop route. And that's why he wasn't running a bench route. He's still a viable option. I'm talking about Noah Gray on this. If for some reason Tremaine Edwards was to cover it, muddy the water for Mahomes here, he can still come back to that seven stop. And at the very last part of this progression, which you very rarely get to, is Bell. He's helping out in protection, but then he releases late and gives you an outlet as well for pressure if anything takes place, in which you can get him the ball.
And this was a great opening play. The drive before this, the Chiefs had gone 3-and-out after forcing the Bills to punt. They got another punt. This is their first play coming off that 3-and-out their last drive. And the next play we're going to get to after we watch this throw from this angle is the very next play. So the Chiefs came out with this nice script on this drive. So first you get Kelce off this hard play action, and then we come right back. The Chiefs are in empty, and then we'll let you walk us through this one and what the Bills are playing, and then how Byron Pringle ends up open on this one.
Yeah, you know what? And when you look at this, it goes to an empty formation. You've got a three deep coverage on the back end. So they're responsible for a third of the field with the safety. And then they've got four underneath defenders right there, right? So it's a true zone defense. And so we refer to this, you can refer to it as 33 buzz or 33 buzz weak. When we say buzz, all that means is it's like cover three, but you can see, I believe that's Micah Hyde right there, the safety. He drops down into that hook defense zone, right? So he's taking responsibility for that linebacker. Linebacker takes the curl flat responsibility. Now, on this particular play, down at the bottom of the screen, you see what we call a smash route. It's a hitch, a 5-yard hitch, and then you've got a corner route by Noah Gray. And then up top, you're really working a high-low combination. It's a return route by number 2, and then the number 3, who I believe is Byron Pringle up right there, is running the in cut, right? So you've got a high-low combination right there. And so when you look at it, and you, from a quarterback perspective, you come up, you look at the pre-snap read, you got off coverage on McCole Hardman down low, and that's really a lot of times where you want to throw this ball. You got to throw it, you catch, grab, throw, and it's the hitch route wide open right now because the cornerback's off. But the one thing that'll take you away from that is that curl flat defender pushes Noah Gray out, right? And he's able to get into that window and kind of take, and you can see Patrick Mahomes' eyes are evaluating that right now, saying, can I throw this right now? But as he pushes out, he gets into that window, and he does a great job of getting himself right back into the progression to the in cut, to the return, and obviously the in cut is able to come wide open. The other part about his head right here that's really good is when he's looking and evaluating whether or not to throw that hitch, it really freezes Micah Hyde, because those guys are reactionary on from a zone standpoint, right? They look at the quarterback and try to get involved whichever way they can, where they think that he's going to throw the ball. So it kind of holds him right there, keeps him out of the window for the in cut, and then the in cut is able to come right in and he delivers a strike.
Man, this explanation's so good. I don't even know if I have any other questions to lob up to you, because I wanted to ask about, Patrick Mahomes looking to the left, and if that was going to have an impact on the safety that was buzzing down kind of into that curl zone or hook zone there. So you answered I think all my questions here on this one. I want to say again, you got the Chiefs working just in behind Tremaine Edmonds. Like I said, this was a kind of a trend throughout the early part of this game, and I think you actually get the Bills in the second half playing a lot more man coverage because of some of the success the Chiefs had. But this was a good one. This followed up that Travis Kelce play. I like going from the smash concept, and I like how quick Mahomes was able to work back to the other side, because Noah Gray did get pushed off kind of his line. He didn't get the release he needed to open up McCole Hardman. Mahomes has to work back across, and he does a good job getting the ball out as soon as he can to that in cut coming in there behind the hook defenders.
Right, and it's always a tight window when you're working against zone defenders, because you got 2 zone defenders on the interior part of the field, and that's where him working his eyes right here and seeing, really, he was going to throw that hitch, but again, when the defender pushes out, he immediately gets back right into that in cut, and he's able to do it with great timing and understand where he's supposed to go next with his read if his primary guy is not open. That's what I loved about the play.
Oh, it was phenomenal. I agree. And now we have to move on to one of the biggest plays of the game. I think everybody's seen this play a couple times, but we're still going to let you talk about it. This is our big, long touchdown to Tyreek Hill. We'll let you just run through with this one too, because I think everybody's talked about this one now, but I had to get your take on what exactly happened on this play.
Yeah, it's just an unbelievable play between 2 of the best at their own position, Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill, the trust factor that goes along. The Bills are in what we call 22 man. So it's man underneath with those guys. It's a 2-high shell. And again, we talked about this, I think, on a previous podcast or show. When it's 22 man, the technique that is played by those defenders underneath is trail and undercut. So normally when you talk about a trail and undercut, it's really hard to throw in-breaking routes because they're protecting their inside, knowing that they have help over top. They don't want to get beat inside. And really, it's the first move that wide receiver makes. They're going to try to undercut it right now. And so when you see this play, it's all go X in, really. You got 3 verticals up top. You've got the middle read by number 3 up top. And then down at the bottom of the screen, you got Tyreek Hill running an in cut. Now, this is not something that coaches would sit there and say, hey, we got to make a living throwing in cuts versus covered. 22 man. It's just not a good play versus 22 man a lot of times unless you have the verticals. But here, there's a trust factor that Tyreek Hill and that speed is going to go win against that corner. And so as you see Patrick come back, he's like, I'm going to Tyreek Hill. I know I've got one-on-one. I trust that he's going to win, even though that guy's got inside leverage. And your normal quarterbacks, normal wide receivers look at it and go, this is not a good play to throw that in cut, but he trusts him. He throws it on time. It's a perfect placement, and Tyreek Hill's speed just beats that defender at the top, and he runs out the backside of it into the touchdown. Huge play in the game, and one of the most exciting plays of the entire weekend.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I want to talk about, just that confidence, because this corner's in a great spot. I mean, yeah, I do think that Tyreek Hill's special. So he does a good job. He turns that corner and somehow does create a little bit of a window. But this corner's, in a perfect spot. He falls on the inside. He's trailing on Tyreek Hill's back hip. there's very little space that we can see it great from here. There's nowhere to really put that football. And then yet here we are, Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball just as Hill's coming out of this break, just trusting him to get by this trail technique corner and put the ball out in front. And he does. It would have been easy to take Clyde Edwards-Helaire out in the flat, pick up a couple yards and continue this drive. But no, he just goes and trusts Tyreek Hill to come out of that break and just outrun the corner essentially from a great position. The execution on this is just absolutely flawless. And at this point in time in the game, I think the entire state of Missouri probably erupted.
Oh, they had to erupt. I was erupting, going, "Oh my goodness!" And then when they showed the replay, and you realize how difficult that is to complete that type of ball versus 22 man. Like you said, it's the trust factor that these two guys have with one another, playing with one another for as long as they have, and understanding that, hey, my guy's better than your guys, and I'm gonna trust the fact that Tyreek Hill's gonna go win across your face, even though you've got great position. I just know that he's a special player, and again, the margin for error also in terms of the throw speaks to volumes to Patrick Mahomes in those type of moments as well, of his capabilities as a quarterback and his accuracy and where he put the ball placement here. Because if he throws it a little bit behind, the defender will make a play. If he slows him up, then those other defenders have an opportunity to potentially get Tyreek Hill. But because he hits him in stride, he never breaks stride, and he can use that speed to outrun that defense right down the sideline for a touchdown.
And then we get away with that little bit of non-taunting there at the end, just to help the Chiefs out.
Hey, peace.
Side note on that would have almost been helpful for the Chiefs to just let the Bills start with the ball a little bit closer because they went down and scored anyway. But that's besides the point. I like that we're starting to get through a couple of these videos now because you brought it up there. We were able to go back and talk about the quarter, half coverage that we talked about last week on the whiteboard leading up to this game. We've talked about trail technique a couple times and it comes up again. So we've had a couple good, runs here of having plays be relevant multiple weeks in a row. Let's jump over to the whiteboard and see if we can do that again with the big AFC championship game coming up against the Cincinnati Bengals.
Woo woo.
All right, so as promised, guys, we're back here. We got the whiteboard, and actually what we're going to look at first is the Cincinnati Bengals. They didn't play that much single high safety versus the Chiefs in the first matchup like they had been doing much of the year, but one of their favorite coverages on third down from that Chiefs game against the Raiders in the playoffs is a lot of Tampa 2, and not a lot of teams play Tampa 2 a ton in the NFL anymore, but the Bengals are one of them. So first, we're just going to let Matt kind of describe it. I'm going to try to draw it up on here. So I'm sure most of you have heard Tampa 2 before, but just in case we're not sure, we're going to draw Tampa 2 up here real quick, talk about how the defense is trying to play it, and then look at a way the Chiefs can go about attacking it.
Okay, so 2 Tampa is one of the most basic coverages that you'll get, and you don't see a lot of teams play. It's more of a third and long coverage at this point, and every now and then it's a mix-up. So it's 2 high shell. Those guys are responsible for half the field, right? So, yep, they're protecting against the deep. You've got the corners rolled up. They're trying to reroute that receiver, and they're trying to really keep inside leverage, right? Not get beat inside right now. So if they do try to release inside, they're really trying to jam him and force an outside release because, again, they know that they've got help over the top. The linebackers, the nickel Sam and the will linebacker, both these guys, they're in that hook player, but they're also on a pendulum. They're reading the quarterback. So they're going where the quarterback's eyes are and giving presence in that interior part of the field. So they're kind of in that general area right there. And then the Mike, he's got the deep third, so he's going to get depth, right, and open up. Yeah, but he'll open up to that 3 wide receiver side. So he's always going to open up to the passing straight. Whatever the defense deems as the passing strength, it could be a 2x2, 2 wide receiver set to one side. He's going to open up to the most dangerous threat of that vertical inside player. So right here, he'll open up to the 3 wide receiver side. And then that's really the basic example of 2 Tampa in terms of their primary responsibilities.
And like Matt said at the beginning, it's a pretty basic coverage. I think everyone's going to remember the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, shockingly enough, running a lot of this with Tony Dungy and during kind of their John Gruden and stuff through their Super Bowl run. They had the guys to do it. It's fallen out of favor a little bit in the NFL over the years now. But like I said, the Bengals do run it. They'll bring it out mostly on third and long. So it'd be useful to come in here, look at some ways to do this because they will still throw this wrinkle in there. So now we're going to let Matt talk about a way that the Chiefs could go about attacking this. And we're going to go with a 3-by-1 formation, but there's, you can do it at 2-by-2, whatever formation you want. The Chiefs will figure it out. But here's just one way to go about kind of attacking this style of coverage they might see.
Right. So a basic play that we used to run all the time, and we called it trips right, 64 under X comeback H seam. Okay. That's how we used to call it in the huddle. Now, the Chiefs run a completely different offense. So the terminology would not fit with that. But nonetheless, so For the Y, we'll start with the Y at the tight end position. He's going to outside release toward that nickel. Outside release and then vertically stem. He'll vertically stem up and run an in cut 12 to 14 yards. Boom. Right. So you want to get width. A big component of playing against two Tampa teams is spacing. You need to have spacing, understand the zones and the principles behind it. So the F, he's going to go up vertically, right, toward that nickel. And he's kind of going to go right off that Y. As he comes by, he's going to create a natural rub right there. So he's going to run an under. Yep, right there. Now that Mike linebacker will vacate, right? He's going to get depth and he's going to get vertical with the Y as he's going up vertically. The Z, the big part for the Z on the outside here is he can take his time. He can give himself a little move inside, act like he's going to run up, but somehow he's got to fight inside, and then he's going to be up about 6 yards and run an under route there as well. Okay. For the X on the backside, we've called X comeback in the huddle, but for this particular play, some teams will convert that to a bench route, which is an inside release. We're not going to do that. We're going to force an outside release to widen that cornerback, right? Because he's got to give depth and get his hands on him, and then he's going to run a go route. So what that'll do is widen the corner, but it'll also widen that weak safety as well, right? And then at this point, now you're responsible for the will. Now the halfback is going to run a little delayed seam, and he's going to throttle in that hole right by the will. So as you go up, yep, and he'll just kind of, yes, right there. And it's again, he doesn't want to go full blast and get into the teeth of defense. It's more of a throttle. So this is where it comes into play. Is a quarterback super easy read. You're dropping back, right? If the F pops right now and the mic has vacated that zone, you can give it to him right now, catch and run before that will linebacker responds and sees your eyes. And the big part of this is holding your eyes downfield to make sure that will doesn't come over right now. Because if you stare at it, the will linebacker will collapse on that first underneath route and hit it, right? So if for some reason the F gets caught up in or anything like that, usually that Mike linebacker will get so much depth that Y can come back underneath him right on that in cut. So it's a high-low read, right? If he gets taken away, now you've got the in cut coming right in behind it. You can take him. Now, this is the fun part about this play. Say you get an overly aggressive linebacker at the will, and all of a sudden he really does like pursue the front side because he's reading eyes. Those guys are reading your eyes. He comes over right now. As he comes over, you keep him there. You can see him coming over, and now that's where that H comes right up in the seam. So now you just, now he pushes over, you're off the front side, and you can just, you can work that triangle. It's really a triangle read. And last case scenario, look, you can always work outside if on the front side, I'm saying, of the formation. Yeah, you're just really working that triangle. Somebody should pop open for you in this circumstance, but the Z sometimes is your late outlet on the front side. Continue to come up because he's been working that cornerback, trying to cross base, gets up to 6, takes his time, and then comes on in. And he's always an outlet as well. If both those interior linebackers, the nickel Sam and the will, squeeze and really are reading eyes hard.
And so I like how you started kind of with when we were working here on the backside, is making sure this X is releasing outside. This is something we talked about. I believe it was last week as well, about the importance of having certain receivers release a certain way. So the X releasing outside is going to pull, your corner here. He's going to cloud up underneath it, but it's going to get him wider. You're going to pull this safety out. And if this halfback's kind of even just starting to come out here, but coming slowly, I like that you're trying to pull the backside of this defense entirely away from the middle of the field so that you can get these in breakers, off the front side coming open. Like the whole manipulation of the zones is perfect. And I think it's great. If this linebacker does think he sees it, can jump these underneath routes, the halfback coming out late's there. But I love the attention to detail you have on this stuff, because anybody can come up here. I can draw any play I want to on here, but it would probably not have crossed my mind right away to think, oh, this X needs to release outside so that we can start pulling everybody over to get, all this extra space in the middle of the field. So that's just the kind of stuff that I love when we get you on here to talk about this, because like that release out here, like you were talking about, this mandatory outside release is so important on some of these things, especially versus zone. And it's just, I think, something that gets overlooked a lot of times when people are starting to think about football and the X's and O's of it.
Yeah, it's all about attention to detail, especially when you're going up against a type of zone team, whether it's two Tampa, whether it's three, anything like that, where you're trying to manipulate underneath coverage. And as I talked about before, it's all about spacing and attention to detail, like understanding your role. Because look, the X is dead in this play versus two Tampa. Now he comes alive in most other coverages, but he's got to do his job to widen that corner. Because again, if that Will wants to get overly aggressive front side, perfect. Then that seam route for that H is wide open because there's just a huge hole in the zone when you're able to manipulate the underneath coverage.
And I just real quick question just on this stuff. How deep, so our Mike linebackers always going to be carrying stuff to the middle of the field, but were you saying that this in cut by our tight end here, should he be able to work back underneath the Mike, or will the Mike try to stay underneath him when he's playing Tampa 2?
Well, that's why again you're going to outside release initially with that Y, right? Because now you're creating that separation, and then now you're pushing vertical, and he's about 12 to 14 yards. Normally, when you have number 3 going vertically, the Mike has to respect that, right? Because other teams also will run a seam read down the middle, so he'll run up and then he'll bend it over the top, and if that Mike settles whatsoever, that's where the big hitter can come too. So he's got to respect that. Usually will run as fast as he can to get back there, protect against the deep third. And now a lot of times he can come right underneath that guy into that window.
Oh, perfect. That's exactly what I want to talk about. Because listen, Chiefs kind of have a good tight end here. So you want to give me a tight end that we think might be able to work underneath a pole running Mike linebacker. I think the Chiefs could have that one covered. So thanks as always, Matt. We greatly appreciate it. I love the detail on this kind of stuff. I know everybody watching it does at home. So we appreciate it. Hopefully next week, well, I guess we'll get 2 weeks in a row if the Chiefs win of getting to talk about this stuff leading up to the Super Bowl. So hopefully we get another fun game this weekend with the Chiefs coming out on top.
I'm anticipating, man. I can't wait again. It'll be another great matchup.